Recently I made a reaction to classic Canadian television PSAs, and on that video a couple of people commented that there was actually another series of PSAs that were popular or common on Canadian television, and it was these. It's called Hinterland Who's Who. I never got too much details about it, so I googled it, and it seems that these were short 1-minute videos about Canadian nature and Canadian wildlife, so maybe similar to Heritage Minutes, but with that focusing on history, this was more focused on nature and wildlife. So interested to know your memories of it. Do you have any specific episodes that you remember? What do you think about the concept? Do they still show these on Canadian television? Let's watch this one.
There was a time when beaver lodges like this one and the busy beavers that build them had almost disappeared from Canada because of overtrapping. But the beaver, who will always be associated with Canada's early days, has been reintroduced into many areas, and it's made a successful comeback. The beaver builds dams because he has to store his winter's food in water deep enough not to freeze. With all the wood cutting that the beaver has to do, it's fortunate that his incisor teeth never stop growing. For a more complete story of the beaver, why not contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa?
Okay, cool. So there's quite a few on this video, I think. So yeah, a lot there. I like that last little part where you just heard the natural sounds of the beaver. So you just don't see things like that, man, where they just let the nature speak for itself, really. But the concept of it, I love it as much. I love the Heritage Minutes, learning about history, but to actually learn about Canadian wildlife in these short 1-minute segments is also a very beneficial service. I'm really jealous of Canadian PSAs. We've got, as I said, the history, now we've got nature, we've got those ones that are looking out for the health of young children. It looks like a wide variety of these different types of PSAs, but very well produced. A few things there that actually gave me a sense of nostalgia was the man's voice, that well-spoken gentleman there. It reminds me of shows that I used to watch when I was a young child, even though it wasn't those. And that little intro music with that crackly sound, it reminds me of, again, similar shows that I used to, when I used to sneak downstairs and watch TV early in the morning before school and just watch these types of shows and productions. Very interesting. Let's watch more.
Chipmunks are the smallest members of the squirrel family. They're found in most parts of North America and Asia. Fallen logs, tree stumps, piles of brush or rock provide good homes. Seeds are the main source of food, and much of a chipmunk's daily activity is spent in collecting them. When the cheek pouches are full, the chipmunk stores the seeds in its nest, or caches them on the ground, covering them with leaves and other litter. For a more complete story on the chipmunk, why not contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa?
Again, very good, very informative. It's like bullet points, learning some really interesting information. Can imagine children probably learned a lot from these, I guess, especially at this time with no internet and things like that. Maybe not even access to like quick access to libraries and so on. You can just watch these and just learn little bits and see the animals. I gotta say, very well shot. It's like very artistic almost, the way it's shot. It's like just very quaint and wholesome and beautiful to look at. Kildeer? I don't really know much about a
Hard
Kildeer.
to see, easy to hear, the Kildeer, named after its call, is a common plover of America. Striking white bands on the forehead and chest break up the outline of the body. The straw-colored legs are very long. Kildeer feed primarily on insects and beetles, many of which are pests like weevils and wireworms. The nest is only a depression in the ground lined with a few pebbles. The mottled eggs are hard to see. As with all ground nesting birds, the chicks too are well camouflaged. For more information on the killdeer, why not contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa?
I just really learned about an animal or a bird I never knew anything about. Awesome. Oh, the loon
is also called the Great Northern Diver because of its ability to dive and swim long distances underwater. It does this to catch the small fish, which are its main food, or simply to evade its enemies. The loon's legs are so far back on its body that movement on land is slow and awkward. So the nests are very close to water. The calls of the loon, and it has several calls in its repertoire, have come to symbolize Canada's wilderness because of their lonely, haunting quality.
That makes sense. That's an interesting comparison.
For a more complete story of the loon, why not contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa?
Tell me if you ever contacted them. The music's so peaceful.
The woodchuck,
nice.
also called the groundhog, is one of the larger Canadian rodents. A mature adult may weigh up to 17 pounds. In winter, it depends almost entirely on body fat until April, when new plant food reappears. Like the beaver, the woodchuck's front gnawing teeth grow continuously, except during hibernation. Constant grinding trims them down. The breeding period lasts 3 months, and from 4 to 5 young are usual. In May, at about 7 weeks, the young are weaned and cautiously begin to forage on their own. However, they still depend almost entirely on their mother to warn them of impending danger. For more information on the woodchuck, contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying these. Tell me if you remember any of these, and as I mentioned at the beginning, tell me if there's any that are not on here that you do remember. A muskox?
The Eskimos call it omingmuk, the bearded one. We know it as the muskox, although it is related to sheep and goats. The muskox lives in the most remote regions of the far north. It has probably the longest hair of all wild animals, sometimes reaching 25 inches in length. From May to August, the fine underwool or quiviate comes off in patches from its thick coat and adds to its shaggy appearance. When attacked, the adult muskoxen standing shoulder to shoulder form a defensive ring. This maneuver was designed for their principal enemy, the wolf, and proved useless against man armed with rifles. The muskox, once brought to near extinction, is now a carefully managed species. For a more complete story on the muskox, why not contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa?
That's a fantastic series. Again, really because it's focusing on Canadian nature, Canadian wildlife and Canadian animals that, I'll be honest, I don't really have that much knowledge about, so I really learned a lot from them. I'm definitely going to need to check out more of them. And what I like, with similar to the Heritage Minutes, these are very concise 1 minute videos where they pack in a decent amount. They don't overwhelm you with information. It's just some interesting facts, as well as some great footage of these beautiful, beautiful animals. That muskox, like the emo ox, man, that long hair, like looking so cool. An animal in the remotest parts of Canada. Yeah, fantastic series. Thank you so much for recommending that. Tell me what you think about it. Tell me if you remember seeing these videos on TV at the time. Thanks for watching.